I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. Out of control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me and my backwards ass sign. I tried to be cool, okay? I try to do something different. It's a good thing I didn't spend a shitload of money on that, or I'd be even more pissed off. Alright, so same day, new video. I'm rolling right into this one, and if you're new here, please check out the video that I did right before this. It is Chris Cornell's part of this series, and we are now moving into Chester Bennington's part, lead singer of Linkin Park. Now, Chester Bennington, was his death a murder linked to Chris Cornell, or was his death a suicide by a broken man who spent years just hanging on, as his best friend Chris was? And when Chris let go, so did Chester. That is the question. Now, disclaimer, again, I'm going to say, this one's actually going to get even deeper than the last one. This is the one where a lot is going to come to light. A lot of mental health and addiction with this one as well. A lot more detail with this case, or with Chester. I'm so used to saying case, you guys. I'm like, it's not really a case, this one. But anyway, with Chester, it's a lot. There's just a lot more. So I also feel very close to Chester as far as the mental part of things. So it was very difficult when I got to this point. I really pushed through it and worked through it, but as I said in my last video, I have suffered from anxiety and depression since I was very young, like them, 12, 13, and I started doing some not so wonderful things at about the exact same ages as they did. Different reasons, but it's still a darkness that I can definitely understand, and it was very hard to do Chester's for me. So if you at any point feel like this is too much and you're being triggered, or if you're going through something right now that's deep and you're not yet at your full mental capacity, then please don't. Just turn it off if you want. You'll see me on something else talking about some murders and whatever. So just know that I just don't want anyone leaving my videos ever feeling like shit and crying for the rest of the evening. Full transparency, I cried a lot while making the script for this. So I am excited to get it out to you guys and kind of put it to rest. So don't get me wrong, I made a commitment to do this, and I am totally fine with it. At first, when I started looking into Chris Cornell, I got very nostalgic, the early 90s when I was young, and I just kind of was back with the music again, watching the videos, trying to learn as much as I could about him, and I got very nostalgic, especially, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, all that brings me back. Then I got into Chris Cornell, which is a lot more recent, and I was in my 20s when I started listening to Linkin Park, and my 20s were a horrible, horrible time for me. Well, there were a lot of times that were horrible in my life, but my 20s definitely were a totally different type of difficult for me. I'm so glad that I'm in my 40s now, and I have been sober for a very, very long time, so please don't think that this is a current issue. I am past it. But I mean, once an addict, always an addict. It's a struggle. It is. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. Not like it is at the beginning. I mean, after a couple of years, it does get easier, but sometimes for some people, it never does. And I am very fortunate that it has gotten a lot easier. And my depression is while every once in a while we may have to tweak something here and there, it's managed. Okay, so I am on medication and I see a doctor regularly, and I'm taking care of my mental health. So please, if anyone ever has any issues with any of these things, I'm going to put the, suicide prevention line on there, the talk line. All of this is going to be on here. If it's not up right now, I'm sure it is. And, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a drug counselor or anything like that, but I am here. And if anyone ever has any questions, I do have my email listed. I am an open book. There's certain things I just can't talk about on YouTube. It's not that I don't want to, it's that it's going to get flagged. So, again, any questions, feel free to email me at any time. It's in the description, my bio. So, let's go on to Chester Bennington. Now, I wanted to start out by asking this question because I feel something about these two, and I wanted to ask, do you believe in soulmates? I do. And if so, if you do you believe that you can have more than one? A lot of people feel like a soulmate is one person in your life that truly gets you. But I feel like you can have more than one. And I feel like you can have your romantic soulmate that meets all of your needs in that romantic way, in that love way that only a significant other can give you. But I feel like you can have a soulmate as in a friend that just gets you the way even your romantic partner doesn't. Yet they could never fill your romantic partner's shoes either. Do you see what I'm saying? So that I feel that way. I know a lot of people only believe in one soulmate. I know people don't believe in soulmates at all. So, but I do. And because I do, I'm kind of going to tell it in that way because I feel like you can have many soulmates throughout your life. And sometimes you learn, those are the people that you really learn life lessons from. And they're not always romantic in nature. Now, Vicky said that she and Chris were soulmates. And Talinda has said the same about Chester. But when I look at the relationship between Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington, I see soulmates as well. Keep that in mind throughout this. Chester Bennington was born on March 12th, 1976 in Phoenix, Arizona. His mother, Susan Elaine Johnson, was a nurse, and his father, Lee Russell Bennington, was a police detective that actually specialized in child SA. His father's job was quite ironic due to the fact that Chester had been SA'd by an older friend of his from the age of 7 to 13 years old. This childhood trauma would cause Chester a lifetime of torment, where he would suffer from severe clinical depression and drug addiction until his untimely death at the age of 41. In addition to the SA Chester had endured, saying that the reason he didn't want to tell anyone was because, for one, he didn't think he would be believed, and for two, he was afraid that people would think that he was gay. He eventually would tell his father what had been going on, and his father looked into pressing charges, but upon finding out that his abuser was as well a victim of SA for a very long time, Chester said that he didn't want to press charges. Like, he actually felt compassion for his abuser who had stolen his own childhood. And as you will soon see, he stole much more than that. And also, as you will see about Chester, that's the kind of person that he was. He truly, genuinely cared about other people more than himself. Now, as I was saying, in addition to the essay that Chester was being put through, he was also being bullied at school. He was very tiny. He was a skinny kid, and he looked different than other people, and it was easy for his peers to pick on him. He even said in an interview that he would be thrown around by these bullies like a rag doll. He said, "I was getting beaten up and forced to do things I don't want to do. It destroyed my self-confidence, and like most people, I was afraid to say anything." To escape, he would draw, he would write poetry and songs. And at the age of 11, Chester's parents filed for divorce. And this was especially hard on Chester, given that he had zero stability as it was with all the other craziness going on in his life. Now his family was about to be torn apart as well. Chester's father gained custody of him, and due to his long work hours, Chester was able to fly under the radar and began drinking and using drugs as a means to cope with it all. He talked about alcohol, marijuana, opium, LSD. He told Metal Hammer that he was on 11 hits of acid a day. "I dropped so much acid, I'm surprised I can still speak." He said, "I'd smoke a bunch of crack, do a bit of meth, and then just sit there and like freak out. Then I'd smoke to calm down. I weighed 100 pounds. Again, I am muting my voice because I don't want to get flagged. This has taken me a lot of work and I don't want it to not air for you guys. By the time he reached his teens, he developed a heavy and habit. At the age of 17, he moved in with his mother. She caught on right away, and she grounded him to the house until he was clean from all that hard stuff. His mother told him that he looked like he stepped out of Auschwitz. They were Jewish, and so was Chris Cornell. He says that he used marijuana to get off the hard stuff, saying every time I got a craving, I would smoke my pot. Now, in order to make some money, Chester worked at Burger King and other odd jobs. In 1992, he quit all the drugs, but addiction would eventually find its way back into his life, as unfortunately it frequently does. Chester had always dreamed of being a big rock star. We all just want to be big rock stars, right? Kid Rock. The first band that he joined was in 1999, and this was a local band called Gray Days, and he was the lead singer. The band was pretty popular amongst the Phoenix area, but eventually Chester became dissatisfied and he left the band in the late 90s, citing creative differences. Shortly after this, he was offered an audition by Jeff Blue, a record executive from Zomba Music, to join a close-knit band who called themselves Zero. The audition was a hit, and at the age of 23, Chester moved out to LA. The band changed their name to Hybrid Theory. Chester was homeless and living out of his car at this time. In fact, in an interview with Rolling Stone, he said that car was a piece of shit. It wouldn't go over 35 miles per hour. Both headlights were burnt out, and he didn't even have enough money to fix them. Warner Brothers passed Hybrid Theory up 3 times before reluctantly signing them in 1999. Boy, they must be glad that they finally didn't pass them up again, because what a band Linkin Park turned out to be. As I say, the band renamed themselves Linkin Park, which was Chester's idea, and well, you know the rest. Still living out of his car, Chester would go to the studio. As soon as it opened every morning, he would crash on the couch until the rest of the band showed up for work. Being the last member to join the band, he always felt like he didn't fit in. The group had all gone to the same high school, so they were already very close. His bandmates said that Chester was extremely motivated and would frequently tell them, "I don't think we're working hard enough, guys." Mike Shinoda recalls he had so much to risk, which was the cause for his extreme motivation. He was very unique, and we collaborated well from the start. Their first album title was named Hybrid Theory, and it hurled Chester's musical talent into the limelight and gave him the much-deserved recognition as one of the 21st century's most iconic music figures. He was known for his high-pitched and emotional screaming, which often talked about his feelings of disconnect from the world. Despite the band's success, he always felt isolated from the rest of the band, and he eventually spiraled back into the clutches of addiction once again. he like had this thing that he just didn't fit in anywhere. And I have to say, I believe that that comes from what happened to him as a child. I think growing up knowing that something like that happened to you and you don't know that it happened to anybody else makes you automatically feel like no one gets you and almost like you're not worthy of someone really caring about you. And I say that for a lot of reasons. But I definitely understand why probably no matter what his bandmates did, he never felt that they cared about him the way they cared about each other. He always felt like an outsider. And that is so sad. And that is really what fuels a lot of addiction for some people. It got so bad that his bandmates staged an intervention. Chester says in an interview, "I had no idea that I had been such a nightmare. I knew I had a drinking problem and a drug problem and that parts of my personal life were crazy, but I had no idea that it was affecting the people around me until I got a good dose of, here's what you're really like. It was a shock. They said that I was two people, Chester and that fucking guy, and I didn't want to be that guy." You guys, that sounds so familiar. Two people, two personalities. The sober one and then the not sober one. And in case you guys are wondering what my drug of choice was, it was alcohol. So, you know, and then once I turned 21 and it became legal, it was like, goodbye sanity. Mix that with depression and the medications that I was on for depression and all that. Whew, okay. I'm sure someone else watching this can relate, and I think that's why I want to throw that out there to connect. I'm just saying, you know, I'm a human being like everybody else, and this video that I'm doing about this topic is, I guess, a way that I can share those things with you without doing a story time. So anyway, that sounds very familiar to me. I can see it. You know, you're just this super awesome person, easy to get along with. You got your shit together. You're doing everything great. And then, you know, but when you're doing this, on the other hand, it's like, who the hell is that person? And get them out. Like, I don't know that person. I don't like that person. Yet, for him, that was probably the person he felt more comfortable being. He didn't feel good being Chester. He felt good being that fucking guy. Okay. But sometimes that's what it takes. It takes someone to show you what you actually look like and how you really act. When you're under the influence of whatever it is that you're struggling with, you aren't cooler. You aren't more fun. You're not a better version of yourself. You're much worse. You're a completely different person. And you're not a person that anyone likes or can tolerate. That's the purpose of an intervention, to show you how you hurt people that love you when you're no longer you. Now, his bandmates did this for him, and because they did, in 2006, Chester got sober once again. And in 2009, he told Spin magazine, "It's not cool to be an alcoholic. It's not cool to drink and be a dumbass. It's cool to be a part of recovery. Most of my work has been a reflection of what I've been going through in one way or another." Hybrid Theory was mainly about his childhood trauma. It sold 10 million copies in 2000, and their second album, Meteora, sold 4 million in 2003. Aside from his work with Linkin Park, Chester also had side projects, including Dead by Sunrise and supergroup Kings of Chaos. He also accomplished one of his dreams and fronted the band Stone Temple Pilots after Scott Weiland left from 2013 to 2015, though eventually he did leave to focus more on his family and Linkin Park. He also did some epic collaborations with artists such as Jay-Z in 2004 for Collision Course, Busta Rhymes, and performed an amazing cover of Adele's Rolling in the Deep. In fact, if you're a fan of either, you should listen to it. It's pretty good. Linkin Park won Grammys for Best Hard Rock Performance in 2001 for Crawling and Best Rap Song Collaboration for Numb Encore in 2005, and that was with Jay-Z. Chester was also the father of 6 children. Yes, 6. He had Jamie Bennington, whose mother, Elka Brand, was, Chester dated her in 1999. Draven Bennington is his son with his first wife, Samantha Olett. And he also has Tyler, Lily, and Lila from his current wife, Talinda Bentley. He also is the father of Isaiah Bennington, whom he adopted from Elka Brand as well, or with Elka. What happened with them, if you didn't already know this one, is that he adopted Isaiah after Elka's boyfriend and Isaiah's father left her, and she was raising Jamie and Isaiah. Chester didn't want Isaiah to grow up without a father, so he adopted him. He was going there, to see Jamie all the time, which is his son, with her, and, he felt like, I'm going to take Isaiah with me. Like, let me adopt him, and I will treat him just as my own son. And then that way, when I'm with Jamie, Isaiah never feels left out, and he has a father. I mean, this is the type of guy Chester was. Just an amazing all-around person. He was also godfather to Chris Cornell's son, Christopher. But no matter how many successful achievements Chester accomplished, he always remained grounded, but never felt enough. And as grounded as he was, I mean, that's a good thing. You want to be grounded. You want to stay grounded. You don't want to let that fame get to your head. But he also was so grounded about it and so kind of just modest about it that he still didn't feel like he was doing enough or he was enough. In 2016, he told Metal Hammer, the idea that success equals happiness pisses me off. It's funny to think that just because you're successful, you're now immune to the full range of the human experience. And this is a very fair thing to say, because so many people think, oh my gosh, if I could make more money, oh my gosh, if I could be more successful at this, then I would be happy. And that's not the case. Happiness comes from a place that doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with money and success. Though, obviously, money and success can get you the things that could possibly make you happier, but they don't make you happy. It's so much deeper than that. And he always said, just because we're successful doesn't mean I'm happy. And you would think that he would be. Chester Bennington was always open about his battles with addiction and depression. He called it his dark passenger. In August of 2016, he suffered another relapse. Though it only lasted 3 days, it did cause him to black out from alcohol. The following October of 2016, he began drinking again, according to friends of his. In February of 2017, he got sober again, and in an interview with Music Choice, he said, I have a hard time with life. Even when it's good, I'm just uncomfortable all the time. The opening line, I don't like my mind right now, that's me 24 hours a day. And if I get stuck in here, I just find it really hard. It doesn't have to be. And this is in reference to his song Heavy, which if you haven't ever heard or you don't know the lyrics, that is the opening line. I don't like my mind right now. But he goes on to say a lot of things. And, this is another song that I feel extremely close to. And anyone who suffers from depression, anxiety, addiction, what have you, I think the lyrics, it's not like I make the choice to let my mind stay so fucking messy, are very, very powerful lyrics, because it is the way so many people with mental issue, depression and addiction say, and anxiety, any kind of, where you're struggling all the time to fight whatever demons are in your mind, it's not like I make the choice to let my mind stay so fucking messy. It just does. And I hate it, because trust me, not one of us wakes up in the morning and chooses to feel shitty. For me, it's quite the opposite. I wake up and tell myself, you're going to be happy today. We're going to get up. We're going to get shit done, Everything's good. Enjoy the day. You're alive. You woke up, but it isn't as easy as that some days. And some days it is just impossible for me. But for me as a mother, I put on that mommy smile. I keep going, and then I go to my room or the bathroom and I let all that shittiness out so that I don't explode. And then, I get right back to it. It's life. It's part of my life. And I've accepted that that's the way it is. And I know that there are certain things that I should be doing or I shouldn't be doing that have an effect on that. And, I can let my mind go to a very, very dark place if I allow it to, because it's always there, but it's learning how to cope and learning how to choose. And I can say one thing, getting sober was the biggest step I could have ever made to help calm my mind, because I don't live with that guilt and that shame anymore. And, it was something that I thought I would always feel, and I don't. And that's why I'm more open about those struggles now, because I'm not ashamed of it anymore. That was me back then. And, it kind of molded me into the way I am now, but I'm still the same person. I just don't have that guilt and that shame and regret and that just dark shadow over me anymore. And it's possible. I just want everyone to know that as dark as it gets, it is possible to come out on the other side. It's hard. It's a lot of hard work. But I swear every month in recovery got better and better and better and better. So it's possible. All right, enough of that. Getting a little deep here. So he also said, and no matter how I'm feeling, I always find myself struggling with certain patterns of behavior. I find myself stuck in the same thing that keeps repeating over and over again. May 18th, 2017, Chris Cornell is found hanging in his hotel room in Detroit in an apparent suicide. Chester was devastated. He sang Hallelujah at Chris's memorial service, which was attended by so many big Hollywood stars. He also wrote the song One More Light and performed it in Chris's memory at the last show that Linkin Park ever played. Mike Shinoda recalls that during the sound check of that show, Chester couldn't even make it through the song. He would get halfway through and he'd get choked up. Heart singer Ann Wilson, you guys know who Heart is? Some of you guys that are my age, I'm sure know who Heart is. One of the best female bands of all time. I mean, just amazing. So Ann Wilson from Heart said that she spoke with Chester just a few weeks prior to him taking his life, and she said that he was very anxious. She said he was really a mess. I think Chris's departure really hit him hard because he recognized the impulse. There was a lot of fear there. She also said something Chris had darkly joked about in the past. Hotel rooms being lonely while on the road, saying the only thing missing is a noose. So Chris did tend to get dark when he was alone on the road, when he'd be in his hotel room by himself. He would his mind would go to those darker places. And I think, leading up to his death, as we already covered, he was just dark in that dark place for a very long time. And as far as Chester's concerned, when she says that Chester recognized the impulse after Chris did what he did, because nobody thought Chris would do something like that. And the fact that he actually did it scared Chester, because Chester had these thoughts all the time as well. And he had even attempted before. And I think the impulse of it, I think she's right. It terrified him that he wouldn't be strong enough, I'm sorry for all that banging that's going on. I have my garage door cracked just a little bit because it's kind of nice out today. But of course, they decide to do this the second I start filming. I'm going to pause this in a second and shut my door all the way. But I want to get a little further here. So, and that's going to bring us to July 20th of 2017. And here is the link The only link that I can say for certain links these two deaths together. Because not only did Chester do this just 2 months after Chris Cornell was found dead in his hotel room, it was also Chris Cornell's 53rd birthday. And the night before, Chester had been on a vacation with his family in Arizona. He was going home to do some work, and then he was planning to meet up with the band, Linkin Park, later that day because he had an upcoming tour. Talinda said he kissed her goodbye, he kissed the kids goodbye, and that was the last time she saw him. Chester was found in his bedroom upstairs at around 9 a.m. by his housekeeper. He was hanging by a belt on the door that separated the closet from the master bedroom. The report said that, according to the police officer that was first on scene, a dresser in the room contained a prescription for generic Ambien with one pill broken in half. The section that said who the prescription was made out to was blacked out prior to publication. So this report didn't know. I'm assuming that might mean the prescription wasn't for Chester Bennington. But it could have been, because Chris's were blacked out too. We have pictures before, crime scene photos, which they're not blacked out. And then we have after the fact reports where they had been blacked out. So whatever that means. The officer also wrote that there was a glass of Corona less than half full, as well as an empty bottle of Stella Artois. Also present was a journal with a biography that was handwritten but not dated, and there was no suicide note. The autopsy findings were characteristic of suicidal hanging. There was a history of suicide ideation, and therefore that kind of helped the final decision that this was suicide by hanging, or hanging, yes, that it was in fact a suicide. His wife Talinda had informed the authorities of the singer's previous attempt at suicide, including a time in 2006 when he left the house after drinking heavily, and I believe he took a gun with him at that point. Fingernails were found underneath his iPhone, and Talinda said that this was a habit that he had when he was very anxious. She said he was recently in an outpatient treatment program, and that to her knowledge, he hadn't taken antidepressants in a year. So he had not been taking anything that was prescribed to help him in a year. Friends of Chester had told Rolling Stone that Chester had really been struggling to maintain his sobriety over the past year. 1 month before his death, he told his friend, guitarist Ryan Shuck, that he had been sober for only 6 months. And he was describing this hour-by-hour battle with addiction, Ryan said. When I look back on it, it's horrifying. He's telling me down to the detail what he would do in the first hour he wanted to drink. Basically, I take it hour by hour every day. And this is a very excruciating way to live. I am telling you this right now. If you do not know what it's like to live with the monkey on your back called addiction, it is excruciating. If you are not getting, 24/7 help and support for the first few months of it, it is excruciating to handle by yourself. And I think that's what he was doing. He was trying to handle this by himself. I mean, she did say that he went to an outpatient program, but there are other things that if you're struggling that hard, there are other things to do that can help you. And a lot of people are like, I am not doing that. I'm not doing the AA thing. I'm not doing the NA thing. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm good. Like, I can do this. I went to rehab. I know I'm not supposed to take, I'm not taking it. I'm not doing it anymore. But it isn't that easy. It really isn't. And if it didn't work and you're feeling cravings, then you're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very, very difficult. And I'm telling you right now, if anybody, I'm not, a licensed counselor or anything like that, but if anybody needs resources or help with any of this kind of thing, I have my email is in my bio. Send me an email. I will send you whatever information you need to get what you need. I'll talk to you all you want too. Okay? Yeah, I'm telling you, I am all about helping people now. I actually did the program. I was a sponsor for quite some time. Then I relapsed for a while. And now I'm a little over 3 years now without a drink. So, and I don't crave it anymore. And that's the best part of it. It's like I have gotten through the worst part, and it took years. I was in and out of rehab, in and out of programs, in and out of everything, in and out of trouble with the law, in and out of all of it. But I'm good now, and you can be too. All right. Now, Ryan said, when I look back, it's horrifying. In hindsight, right? Always in hindsight. And a lot of, the people in Chester's life that were questioned, after this, did you notice? Now they noticed some of the things that he was saying and doing, and now it makes sense to them. So to them, there were many signs, which Chris had virtually no sign up until the last, few months, and even few days, hours even. Chester had signs. So now we're going to get into some theories surrounding Chester and Lincoln Park. So let me figure this whole sound thing out, and then we're going to get into the theories. All right, so the biggest theory that I can find that there's a lot about is John. Okay. That he's Chester's illegitimate father. Some people have really taken to the notion that Chester Bennington's mother had an affair with John Podesta, and that's the reason Chester's parents divorced in the first place. Well, first of all, okay, let's look at a side-by-side photo of Chester and John. Okay, like, I get it. I'd be lying if I said I didn't see a resemblance here. But and in here, to be fair, let's look at Chester and Lee Bennington, Chester's father. Not too much of a resemblance is there. If you look, it depends on how you look. If you look at it, in this side by side, I can see it in the eyes. I see a resemblance there. Not everybody looks 100% like one parent or the other. Sometimes it's a really big mix of the two. Sometimes they look more like their mom. Although here's him with his mom. I don't see it really there either. So you got me there. Do they look alike? They absolutely do. But here's my question. Why would John Podesta miraculously have met up with a nurse in Phoenix, Arizona, and sleep with her? So, and here's more into that. So we know Chester's birthday, March 12th of 1976. So this would mean he was conceived in June of 1975-ish. If you want to be technical, it could be anywhere between the last week of May through the first week in July of 1975. Like, what was he doing there anyway? Let's figure out who John Podesta is and see if that would be possible or if that would make sense. Okay, that was the first thing I wanted to see. So, who is John Podesta? He's an American political consultant who served as White House Chief of Staff to President Bill Clinton from 1998 until 2001. And then he was counselor to Barack Obama from 2014 to 2015. Before that, he served in the Clinton administration. And even further back, he was just a kid growing up in the Chicago, Illinois neighborhood of Jefferson Park on the city's northwest side. He went to high school and college in Illinois, and then he went to law school at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. I have not been able to connect him to Arizona at all back in 1975 or 1976. In fact, he graduated law school in Georgetown in 1976. So, and he has said in the past, I read all sorts of things about him. One of his favorite things to do when he was in college to go vacation or just kind of get away was to travel to Colorado because he loved the snow. Now, this could all be a cover. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, well, of course it's that. But these were in interviews that have nothing to do with this. They were just in interviews or, things that he said that I found, over the years as I was looking at things. So I cannot tie him to Arizona at all. In fact, quite the opposite. He was in Washington in 1976 in law school. And when he would take breaks, he'd go to Colorado to ski. So I can't tie him to Arizona. During the time that Chester was conceived. So to say that he would just, and he, at this point, he's in law school, like he's doing things with his life. His brother was really big in politics. So, for him to go sleep with some nurse in Phoenix, Arizona, and then dip out, like it doesn't really make sense. In my opinion. As for the connection to the Clinton administration, okay, as far as Chester being connected and where did they get this grant money from? Well, that actually came from Mike Shinoda, Chester's Linkin Park bandmate. So the story goes, they were hanging out in this restaurant in Portugal, the Montmar restaurant to be exact. Why? Well, Mike Shinoda, the other vocalist from Linkin Park, or is still, I don't know. Anyway, Mike Shinoda was an investor in a recycling center in Haiti, where they were buying recyclable materials. But after a while, they ran into a problem. It got so big that they weren't able to pay everyone, and they were actually on the brink of closing down completely. But the Clinton Foundation came to their aid. The Clintons were already involved in Haiti, and they were glad to give Mike Shinoda this grant to complete his project. That's it. That's the only connection Chester even had to John Podesta was through Mike Shinoda's charity. So the fact that they were in the same band and they supported each other's efforts was the only connection that I could find. And that's the truth about that grant. It wasn't given to Chester at all. It wasn't even Chester's charity. It was Mike Shinoda's charity. So we can always find more. All right. These theories generate from one person making an assumption and then someone else agreeing that it could possibly make sense and sharing it. The internet is like a giant game of telephone, and you have to be really careful where you get your information from. We all remember the game telephone, right? You say something into someone's ear, and by the time it actually comes out in the open for everyone to hear, it sounds nothing like it did when the original person said it. So we do have to be very, very careful. There's lots of fake news sites. There's lots of clickbait out there. There's lots of this just to spread this for people to get likes, for people to get shares, so much clickbait out there. You have to be really careful and really do your research before believing certain things. Many of these sites talk about these theories. Those sites have actually been proven to be fake sites. Now, I don't know what you think about all this information that I just gave you. I know it's a lot to take in, and I know there will be a few different conclusions made depending on what you believe. I just want to close by saying that while I am 100% sure that there is a ton of shady ass shit going on in this world today, and that these things do in fact exist, I do not think that this is what happened to these two artists. There is no proof that I can find of it, anyway, at least. And I have dug to the point of uncovering all sorts of disgusting things going on, but no ties to Chester or Chris. So if it was linked, it is not even going to be able to be proven, which would, I assume, be the point. But I don't think either one of them were killed by the government. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If Chris didn't do that to himself, the only other place that I would look would be into the wife and bodyguard theory. That would be the closest I would get to if he didn't do it to himself. That would be where to look, based off of information that I've found. So like I said, I go through all sorts of sites. I don't just use Google. I use a ton. And if I can't find stuff on these sites that I'm looking at, the next step is a step that I said I will not go. Those are things where you start running into, you're treading on some uncharted waters, or whatever you want to say, and it starts getting scary. If I can't find it using the search engines that I'm using and using the stuff that I actually pay for to look deeper into these things, if I can't find it there, I'm not going to look any farther. It's definitely not meant to be found, and I'm not going there. There are plenty of sites that do, and by all means, go there. Okay. So Chester was a ticking time bomb, in my opinion. He was broken at the age of 7 years old, and he struggled immensely to make it through life. He found one person who really got him and made life survivable. Because when you're feeling like that and you're that deep down in shit, you are in survivor mode. You're not living your life. You're surviving. And that person was Chris Cornell. And when he died, Chester lost his soulmate. Remember, I talked about soulmates at the beginning of this? Chester's dark passenger took over when Chris could no longer be his voice of reason. The signs were there for Chester. His last few shows, he began standing in the crowd, allowing his fans to touch him and sing along with him. He would touch them back. He got so much more personal with his fans. He was really struggling again with his addictions. He also attempted suicide less than a year prior. And there was only a small amount of alcohol in his system at the time of death, which to me means he wasn't out of his mind blitzed. He was sound mind when he did this. In an interview, and he knew his family was not there. He knew his family wouldn't find him. So that was something too he felt comfort in, that he could do this and he would be found by someone else. He wouldn't have to worry about the kids or his wife walking in on it. I don't know. In an interview before he died, he said, "I came to a point in my life where I was like, I can either just give up and fucking die, or I can fucking fight for what I want." And I chose to fight for what I wanted. I wanted to have good relationships. I wanted to love the people in my life. I wanted to enjoy my job. I wanted to enjoy being a dad and having friends and just getting up in the morning, because even that is a struggle for me. Wow. That man could have been my twin. Now, I have to say, I no longer feel these feelings as intensely anymore. It's very few and far between that I can feel like this, but I have felt like that before when I was stuck in my shit. And that is truly how you feel. You want to be happy. You want to love being a parent. You want to enjoy your kid. You want to enjoy every second of every day, but you can't. You want to, but you cannot. And that is like I said earlier, just excruciating way to live. He could not find his way out of this. He just couldn't find it. He couldn't get there. He couldn't get there in his mind, to recover. And it's so sad and it's so tragic. And I really feel for him. To live like that is not easy. And I think he stuck in there for a really long time, hoping that he would find his way out. And when Chris didn't, he just had nothing left. I think everything else wasn't enough. He didn't have that voice of reason in his head anymore telling him, come on, man, don't be ridiculous. You got kids, like you're going somewhere, like knock it off, and not that those types of words help, but to have someone that truly understands you, telling you that you're going to be okay is a lot easier than having someone who has no idea what you're going through, telling you it's going to be okay. Does that make sense? So He tweeted to Chris after Chris died, a very heartfelt message, and where he wrote, "I just can't imagine a life without you in it." I believe him. And I can only hope that Chester Bennington is at peace for the first time ever. I hope that they are up in heaven or wherever your soul goes when your body dies. And I hope that they are making music together. And the only memories that are left are good ones. So that's it. That's all I have. That is my Chester and Chris thing. I understand you probably wanted me to find more things linking them to these conspiracy theories, because we don't want to believe that someone could do what they did, but people do what they did more often than you know. In fact, I have personally known several within the last 10 years or so. And all of them, I was like, what? You know? So anyway, I'm going to end this. This was a very, very rough one for me. A very hard one for me. I do more true crime, obviously. Not a lot of the deep dives into suspicious deaths. I am open to doing more. Again, my email is in my bio if you have any ideas of cases that you want me to cover. I'm obviously here for you guys. There are ones that are important to me that I really would like to get out there and to cover. And, but I'm certainly not opposed to, ideas. This one was given to me as well. And thank you, Keith. I learned a lot. I really did. So I hope you got some of the answers that you were seeking. And, so comment, like, share, subscribe. I will talk to you guys as soon as I get some other stuff figured out. I'm actually wanting to deep dive more into this Bob Saget thing because I swear I keep finding out new stuff every single day. New stuff that's just questionable. But I don't know. Maybe I should just lay that one to rest. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I come up with next. There's tons of true crime out there. There's tons of missing kids I would like to start bringing some awareness about. So I will be busy at work and I will get another video out as soon as possible. So have a great week and I will see you guys later.
Oh, you don't know me. I am fading.